Everything you learned in school about getting a good job, a steady paycheck, what if it was all designed to keep you financially trapped? It's a pretty wild idea, right? But that is the core message of one of the most influential personal finance books ever written, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Today, we're going to break down the key lessons that have completely changed how millions of people think about money.
So let's just start with this quote, because it really hits on the central problem Kiyosaki is trying to solve. His whole point is that we spend all these years in school learning how to be great employees. You know, doctors, mechanics, programmers, but we learn absolutely nothing about how money actually works. We learn how to work for money, but we're never ever taught how to make money work for us. And that single idea, that's the foundation for everything else in this book. And this comparison gets right to the heart of it. Kiyosaki basically had two father figures growing up. His poor dad was his actual dad, a super educated guy with a stable government job. His rich dad was his best friend's father, a guy who was a full-on entrepreneur. And you can see right here, their advice points to two totally different worlds. One is focused on climbing the corporate ladder, and the other is focused on owning the ladder itself.
So let's really dig into what these two paths looked like, because it wasn't just about their jobs, not at all. It was about their fundamental beliefs, their mindset around money, and it's these totally different mindsets that Kiyosaki says made all the difference in where they ended up financially. This table just lays it all out so clearly. I mean, look at the contrast here. Poor dad would say things like, "The love of money is the root of all evil." But rich dad would flip it and say, "No, the lack of money is the root of all evil." Or think about this. When he wanted something, poor dad's brain would just shut down. "I can't afford it." That's the end of the conversation, but rich dad's brain would turn on. It was a question. How can I afford it? You see, one mindset closes doors and the other one starts looking for a key. This is absolutely crucial.
And this is such a powerful idea. Rich dad taught him that being broke, that's just a temporary situation. It means you don't have cash right now. That's it. But being poor, oh, that's a mindset. It's an identity. It's that feeling of defeat that tells you you'll never have money. It's the difference between "I'm out of cash this week" and "I'm just a person who doesn't have money." It's about who you believe you are, not what's in your wallet today. Okay, so this difference in mindset leads us right to the first and probably the most famous lesson from the entire book. The rich don't work for money. And if you can really get your head around this, it's the key to escaping what he calls the rat race.
So the story goes, when he was just a little kid, Rich Dad gave him a job dusting cans in a store for a measly 10 cents an hour. And after a few weeks of this boring, awful work for basically no pay, he was furious. He felt used, like a slave, and he was ready to quit. He was learning, right then and there, what it really feels like to be an employee. Rich Dad sat him down and explained that that feeling of being trapped, it's driven by two really powerful emotions, fear and greed. He said the fear of not having money is what makes you go out and get a job in the first place. But then, the second you get that paycheck, greed or desire kicks in, and you immediately start thinking about all the cool stuff you can buy. It's this emotional 1-2 punch that just traps people. And this diagram, this shows that pattern perfectly. Step 1, get up. Step 2, go to work to make some money. Step 3, that money immediately flows out to pay your bills. And step 4, repeat. Over and over again. And the problem is, making more money doesn't break the cycle. It just makes the little hamster wheel spin faster. You get a raise, so what do? You buy a bigger house, a nicer car, and your expenses just grow to match your income, locking you in even tighter than before. So what did Rich Dad do? Something that sounds completely insane. He stopped paying them. Just cut off their paycheck completely. And you gotta ask, why would he do that? Well, because he wanted them to stop thinking like employees who just wait for a wage and start thinking like owners who are always looking for opportunities. The whole goal was to force their brains to figure out how to create money, not just work for it. And guess what? It totally worked. They noticed that a local store was just throwing out old comic books. So they collected them, set up a little comic book library in a basement, and charged other kids 10 cents to come in and read as much as they wanted. All of a sudden, they were making money, even when they weren't physically there. Money was working for them. And without even realizing it, they had created their very first asset. That little comic book library was their first real taste of owning an asset. And this whole experience leads us to the single most important rule in the entire book. I mean, this is the absolute core of financial literacy. It all comes down to understanding two very simple words, asset and liability. So, to
To get our minds working, Kiyosaki throws out a question that challenges something we've all been told our whole lives. We hear it all the time. Your house is your biggest asset. But is it really?
Rich Dad's definition is just beautiful in its simplicity. Seriously, forget all the complicated Wall Street jargon. An asset is simply something that puts money in your pocket. That's it. End of story.
And on the flip side, a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. It's just that simple. It's not about what you call it or whether you own it. It's about which direction the cash is flowing. That is the only thing that matters.
All right, so let's see what this looks like in the real world. This is the cash flow of a poor person. Income comes in from a job, and it goes straight out to cover expenses like rent and food. Just notice, the asset and liability columns are totally empty. There's no engine here to create more wealth. Now let's look at the middle class. The income is higher for sure, but where's it going? Look, it goes straight into buying things for the liability column. They buy things they think are assets, like their home, but with a mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs, it's taking money out of their pocket every single month. Same with car payments and credit card debt. Their expenses just keep growing, but that all-important asset column, it's still empty.
And finally, here is the cash flow of the rich. And this is the complete game changer. Just look at where the income is coming from. It's not a salary from a job. It's flowing from their asset column. They use their money to buy things that generate more money. Rental properties, stocks that pay dividends, bonds. This income from their assets then pays for all their expenses. This is the definition of having your money work for you.
So, let's just boil it all down to one crucial point. The rich buy assets. The poor only have expenses. And the middle class? Well, they get stuck buying liabilities that they mistake for assets. That's the whole game in a nutshell.
So, if the goal is to build up that asset column, how in the world do you actually do it? Well, this brings us to the final key lesson. You have to mind your own business. And Kiyosaki makes a really critical distinction here between your profession and your business. They are not the same thing.
As you can see here, your profession is what you do to get paid. It's your job. It's how you fill up your income statement. But your business is what you own. It's your asset column. So you might be a chef. That's your profession. But your business might be the stocks you own in restaurant companies. The rich always focus on building their business, not just getting a promotion in their profession.
And this idea is just perfectly summed up by the founder of McDonald's, Kroc. He once told a group of business students, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate." Wow. He knew his profession was selling hamburger franchises, but his true business, the real engine of his incredible wealth, was owning the valuable land under every single one of those golden arches.
So what's the big takeaway here? What's the action plan? Well, the book's advice is actually pretty straightforward. Keep your day job. That's your main source of income for now, and you need it to pay the bills. But instead of just using that income for expenses, you start systematically buying real assets. You reduce the things that take money out of your pocket, and you focus, laser focus, on building that asset column piece by piece until the income it generates is enough to cover all of your expenses. That is how you escape the rat race.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really powerful question you should ask yourself. I want you to forget about your job title for just a minute. After everything we've just talked about, the real question is this: what business are you really in?